So you really tapped into the zeitgeist when you tested Stanley cups for lead and posted about it. It seemed to get like millions of views and like almost as many comments. Can you walk through that process and what you found?
Yeah, I mean, the Stanley Cup thing, I've known about it for a while. It's really like a scam. Like almost no one's getting poisoned. And I said that in the video. I said like almost no one's getting poisoned by these cups because it is hidden. There's really no basis to recall them because the only products, any product in fact, could contain lead legally and be sold to people. It's only products that are intended for use by children that have lead in accessible components that would be regulated under the Consumer Product Safety Commission ruling. And even then, they actually blend the entire product up into a homogeneous powder, and then they test that. So that's how all those baby bottles actually get through, because they wind up blending it, and most of the bottle is just inert glass with no lead. Your question was about the Stanley cups. I saw something about it, and I said, this is definitely good to tap into. Like, obviously, this is trending. It's topical. I'm gonna make a video about it, and I don't want people to freak out because that's like the craziest thing. Because I saw one lady. She was like, it's 4 a.m. I'm testing Stanley cups. They have lead. Like, let's say her hair was falling out on camera. She looked so stressed, and that's the last thing I want people to be, is stressed about lead, and stressed about anything. In fact, because like most of life is really just what we make it, right? So like I could have lead poisoning, but like if I'm freaking out about it, it's gonna be 10 times worse. And people's children, everybody had lead poisoning. I'm sure everybody in Congress or the Senate right now had severe childhood lead poisoning because all the paint in the 1940s, 50s, 60s was lead. There was lead paint everywhere. There was lead in the gas. It was endemic to the environment. But none of those, here's the key thing, none of those children's parents said, hey, you have lead poisoning. You have an intellectual disability. They just said, better stick with it, or whatever they would say. They'd probably hit him or something back then. But like that really insulated all those people from feeling a certain way. It's almost like as damaging as racism can be to a person, to internalize that feeling that other people are judging them, and like that's a really horrible situation to have happen. And with lead poisoning, if I have lead poisoning, I don't know about it, I'm never going to know. But if my parents find out and they start talking about it and they start telling me about it and they start telling other people about it in front of me, I'm going to really feel a certain way. And that's not good for the kids or for the parents, because it is really stressful. And, a lot of people have health anxiety, and lead is really potentially everywhere, kind of. So it's like kind of like a reasonable fear to have, and it's terrible for children. So having young children, of course, that's like the number one thing you want to avoid, especially when the only people talking about it are people that have had such bad experiences with it that they're still talking about it maybe 15 or 20 years later. And that's a really scary thing, I think, for parents. So part of like and I've had a lot of experiences with these kinds of people, because initially I was planning on just remaining anonymous, and I was trying to just use money to negotiate with people. But I don't know if you ever heard the phrase like that, you can't negotiate with terrorists, because terrorists are not driven by money. They're driven by an ideology. And so when people are driven by an ideology that's rooted in trauma, it's not going to be able to be reconciled with logic. And I'm a very logical person. In certain contexts, I'm horribly illogical, but I think that's just the way my brain is wired. But when it comes to like getting stuff done, like we're going to need to have a viable solution. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. So like in business and in life, like what's the plan? Like I want to know the plan, and I want to make sure that the plan can work.